You remember, right? All those super awkward conversations we had during the pandemic, trying to guess if the person you were talking to was smiling or not. Well, guess what? You weren't just imagining it. That feeling was totally real, and we all went through it.
So why was it so tough? I mean, yeah, the obvious answer is 'cause of the mask. But what was really going on inside our heads? That constant feeling of just not being sure? It wasn't just in your head. It was a measurable, scientific thing.
And while the rest of us were just trying to get through a trip to the grocery store, scientists were already on it. They were actually studying our collective confusion to get some real answers.
So today, we're diving into this awesome study from 2020. It's called Wearing Face Masks Strongly Confuses Counterparts in Reading Emotions, and it was published in Frontiers in Psychology. It basically gets right to the heart of how masks mess with our brain's ability to read people.
Okay, so how in the world do you scientifically measure that feeling of, I have no idea what you're thinking right now? Well, to turn that vague feeling into some cold, hard data, the researchers set up a really clever experiment.
Here's how it worked. It was actually pretty simple. They showed people a bunch of different faces, and each face was showing one of 6 basic emotions. Sometimes the face was totally clear, and other times they saw the exact same photo, but with a mask on it. And for every single picture, people had to answer 2 simple questions. What emotion are they feeling, and how sure are you? All right, so after running everyone through the test, what did the numbers actually show? Let's get to the findings, because this is where it gets really interesting. This chart pretty much says it all. See that first bar? When faces were unmasked, people were great at this. They got it right about 90% of the time. But then, look what happens when you add a mask. Accuracy just takes a nosedive. It's a huge, significant drop.
The author of the study put it perfectly. He said the mask didn't just hide things, it strongly irritated our emotion reading system. It's like it was actively throwing a wrench in the works for our brains.
And, it wasn't just that people were getting the answers wrong more often. Their confidence just tanked. Even when they guessed correctly, they felt way less sure about it. That perfectly explains that real-world feeling of uncertainty we all had.
Okay, but this is the really wild part. The mistakes people made weren't random at all. The study found these really specific patterns of confusion where some emotions were constantly getting mistaken for other ones. Just look at this table. It's like a map of the misunderstandings. A disgusted face? People often saw that as angry. And get this, happy, sad, and even angry faces were all frequently just seen as neutral. A smile? A frown? It all just disappeared into a blank expression.
But let's zoom in on the most dramatic mix-up. When people saw a face showing disgust behind a mask, they thought it was an angry face almost 38% of the time. That is a massive and very specific error.
And you got to think about the social danger here for a second. Disgust is basically saying, get away from me, like you smell something bad. But anger? We see anger as a threat, as aggression. Mistaking one for the other could turn a simple reaction into what feels like a major confrontation.
So what do we do with all this? If the lower half of our face is hidden, how are we supposed to adapt and make sure we actually get our point across?
Well, the study suggests we have to compensate. We got to lean on our other communication channels. Use more expressive body language, really change up our tone of voice, use our hands more, even just tilt our head. And hey, sometimes the easiest way is to just say what you feel out loud.
And that's really the big takeaway here. Our faces are a huge part of how we talk, for sure, but they aren't everything. We are super adaptable creatures, and this whole experience kind of forced us to rediscover the other tools in our communication toolbox.
And that leaves us with one last thing to think about. After all that time in masks, did we actually become better communicators? Are we more tuned in to body language now or the sound of someone's voice? It's an interesting question. Did this whole challenge actually make us better at understanding each other in the long run? Something to chew on.